Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from Tales from the Front Desk. Story 1 is by Coffee Mug of Victory. But why won't you let me in? This one happened at not even a full 2 hours into my shift tonight, and it may be a little long. Hi, I'm Coffee. I'm a night auditor for a small boutique hotel in the US. Our ground floor is a little weird. For some context, my hotel is on a popular street in my city and has restaurant and bar inside. The front doors opened into our lobby area, and then straight back into the other half of the ground floor is a restaurant and bar. The front desk and host stand are combined into one long desk that semi-separates the lobby and restaurant. It's usually confusing for guests, especially the ones meant for the restaurant or bar. The lobby itself doesn't have any restrooms. The only restrooms on the ground floor are in the restaurant. I'm sure many properties are like ours, that once the bar and restaurant are closed, they do not allow any non-employees inside. It's a safety issue, and it's a liability issue for insurance. I was organizing some paperwork when an older woman came in and beelined straight to the front desk. I could barely understand what she was saying because she spoke quickly, at a whisper. I could catch that she was giving me a spiel similar to a lot of the homeless folk around here. A lot of sad backstory that's meant to guilt trip you into giving them whatever they want, and while not all of them do this, the relentless ones that get mean do. I was trying to get this lady to slow down because she kept saying a man stole her wallet when she was at the hotel earlier, but again, I couldn't understand most of what she was saying. I was able to get that she said her name was Mary, but wasn't a guest of either the hotel nor the restaurant. Suddenly, I heard a knocking at the front door. I looked up and there was a couple standing there. The man was knocking on the door and waving to me while the woman was holding his hand and politely waving. The front doors of the lobby weren't locked at this time. I asked Mary to please wait a moment at the desk and I would be happy to help her, but I needed to see what this man wanted. Mary instead followed me all the way to the door and kept speed whispering, but it sounded like gibberish at that point. The man was clearly drunk. He said his girlfriend needed to pee and they wanted to know if they could use our restroom. I politely told them no, I'm sorry, our only restrooms on this floor are in the restaurant, and that it was closed. The man insisted they would only be 2 minutes tops. I again said sorry, the restaurant's closed and our policy doesn't allow for non-employees in the restaurant once it's closed. They'd have to find somewhere else that's open. The man started calling me names and demanding that I tell him why they couldn't come in to pee. While I was trying to explain again to this man why he couldn't come in, Mary never stopped whisper vomiting. She then pushed past me and said in a louder, clearer tone that she lived down the street and if anyone saw her wallet to come find her. I tried to stop her, but the man became more aggressive and started cursing me out. I felt bad for his girlfriend because the moment I told them no the first time, she was trying to get him to leave. I firmly told him he was not allowed inside and they needed to leave. I didn't want to hear any of the other names he was now starting to shout at me. I went inside, closed the door behind me, and locked it. I don't know what was going on with either of those situations. I have no idea if Mary actually had her wallet stolen, but I have a feeling she didn't because of how she approached me, refused to listen, wouldn't give me any contact information, wouldn't give a description of the wallet other than for some reason it had her birth certificate and immigration paperwork in it, how she only said something now and not when her wallet was supposedly stolen, and how she just ran off. 2 things I do know, that the man was someone who was rarely ever told no in his life, and that he and his girlfriend probably had a tense trip home. Go somewhere else. Is this not a very big city? Because most places that have a pretty well-booked hotel, there's a 24-hour store within like 3 blocks of the place. This must be a smaller town. Our next story is by Soup Lover 5. Apparently I'm racist because VIP check-in isn't open. The lobby is set up with 2 front desks, one for VIP check-in and one for regular check-in. Of course, this is I don't know what that is. SHMYNDAM. Of course, this is Schmindam, so they're both the same thing. One desk is just a lie to make people who wasted thousands on timeshares feel a little better about it. I feel like they were trying to say sham. S-H-A-M? Schmindam. When walking through the front doors, regular check-ins straight ahead, but VIP is to the left, almost completely out of sight. and it's unlabeled except for some stupid blue ropes and little rug that says VIP. Guests flock to the regular check-in because it's the first desk they see. We had to have someone on the floor directing people to VIP because a line would form at regular and no one would see the guest service agents at the VIP desk. Because we're short-staffed, I have all 4 people, including me, working regular check-in and nobody at VIP. No big deal. That's usual. But there are long lines and it's peak check-in time. A guest approaches to check in, does not acknowledge my greeting, and just says, "Why isn't VIP check-in open?" I replied, "Unfortunately, we're short-staffed, and it's our policy to keep this desk staffed first before VIP because of the flow of guests." She becomes immediately irate and says, "Oh, it's the policy?" The policy. I've been an owner longer than you've worked here, and I know that's not the policy. I said, "Well, I can go open it for you, but it will take 10 or more minutes for my computer to get started." She didn't like that answer, and continued to argue with me about the company policy like she knew the darn employee handbook. I'm sure I had a slightly annoyed tone. It was a busy Thursday, we were short-staffed, and this lady who's here for one night is bothering me. Eventually, I took a deep breath and said, "Mrs. Guest, I apologize. I think we've got off on the wrong foot. Let's get your check-in started so you can enjoy your vacation. Can I please see your ID?" She seems to have calmed down a little. I started asking for her information, confirming email, number of guests, etc. To every question, she replied, "You don't need that." "Ma'am, yes I do. If I don't collect this, I will be in trouble later." I'm sure my demeanor changed when I realized how rude this woman is, and she said, "What's wrong? Have I made you mad?" I said, "Mrs. Guest, I have to collect this information and you aren't providing it." Mind you, she's only here for one night, so I don't know what she was delaying her own vacation for by starting with me. Eventually, I gave up, handed her the keys and a parking pass, and said, "If you'd like, you're welcome to speak with my supervisor." I had already messaged my AGSM, who waited nearby to talk to her. The guest told my supervisor that I was rude and didn't know how to do my job. She went outside to unload, and as her and her husband are walking through the lobby to the elevator, he said loudly, "These people think they can do anything with Trump in office." I am white and the guests were black, and the year was 2018. I said absolutely nothing offensive. I was just doing my job. But I'm sure she lied to her husband, who took it upon himself to be rude in the middle of the lobby and essentially call me a racist. Fortunately, those guests did not bother me for the rest of their stay. But they did visit another location where my AGSM checked them in a couple years later, and she said they were just as mean and rude as the first time. So yay for no self-awareness or growth. Our next story is by Own Examination 2771. I chose a non-refundable rate and it's your fault, I can't cancel. So this weekend is graduation weekend for one of the biggest private colleges in the area, so all the hotels are sold out this weekend and it's a huge event. In line with this, the prices are a little outrageous, and most hotels are only doing non-refundable prepaid rates to ensure that a bunch of people aren't going to cancel and hotels are going to miss out on that big money. And we are no exception. I had a man book 3 rooms this weekend with that non-refundable rate, and his wife calls early in the day and asks if they can cancel or modify the reservations. I tell her, unfortunately, I cannot do that due to the fact that they chose non-refundable prepaid rates, and the advance deposits have already been applied. I even asked my general manager for them to see if there was anything he wanted to do for them, and he told me the same thing. They chose a non-refundable rate, therefore the rooms are theirs. About 15 minutes ago, the husband calls the hotel and details the same story. I explain the same thing that I explained to her. You chose non-refundable rates and therefore I cannot do anything. The rooms are yours for the whole weekend. He gets all huffy with me, talking about, "You're just not willing to help me. There's something you could do for me, but you're just not willing to. You don't want to." I'm not the one who made you choose a prepaid non-refundable rate. You chose that knowing the details of the rate. They even went as far as to ask for compensation. Why would we be compensating you for trying to cancel a non-refundable rate? We are not the ones forcing you out of a room. Therefore, there's nothing to compensate. You guys want to bet that the non-refundable rate information for their hotel booking was in fine print somewhere? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe they're not at fault at all. But I hope it wasn't in the fine print. Our last story is by somebody whose name I'm going to attempt to pronounce, but it's not going to sound pretty. By Strawcabstiho. Estra K-Cab S-T-I-H-O. 10 years and I've never been asked this before. Guest from out of town needed a ride to the restaurant he chose for dinner tonight and asked for a taxi, so I called one. It gets here, he talks to the driver for a minute or so, and then the taxi takes off and the guest comes back to me. Guest: that taxi was very expensive. Me: well, our city's taxis are actually pretty reasonably priced compared to some places I've visited. Guest: can you call me a cheaper taxi? Me: the taxi rates are maintained by the city. Every taxi costs the same. Guest: oh, well, can I call an Uber? Me: of course. We have Ubers pick up and drop people off here all the time. Guest: great. Can you call it for me and bill it to my room? Me: what? Guest: I don't have an Uber app. Can you call me one and bill my card on file? Me: no, that's not how Uber works. You need to pay for it through the app using your own registered payment method. Guest: okay, call me a taxi again. Reasonable taxi rates in a city are still always very expensive. If you're gonna get somebody to drive you somewhere, it's gonna cost quite a bit of money. That's just how it is. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a spectacular day.